All right, let's dive into an idea that's, well, it's a little strange when you first hear it. We're going to explore how the most amazing creativity, those big aha moments, can come from a place you'd least expect it, from total, absolute stillness. It's all about how that quiet space can end up creating the loudest ideas.
Our story starts with this line right here, and man, it's intense, right? It's raw, it's painful. This is the complete opposite of what we think of when we hear the word silence. It immediately tells you that this journey doesn't begin with peace, it begins with a whole lot of pain.
So picture this. It's June of 2020. I mean, we all remember that time, right? A period of just global weirdness, uncertainty, isolation. But for the author whose story we're following, this wasn't just a backdrop. It was the setting for a deeply personal crisis.
And at the absolute heart of that crisis was the death of a father. A moment of unbelievable grief, but made so much harder because of everything else that was going on in the world.
And this wasn't just about grief. It was this feeling of complete and utter helplessness. Imagine being locked out of the ICU, watching someone you love fade away through a pane of glass. You can't hold their hand, you can't say goodbye. It's the definition of being powerless.
And this is where things get interesting. From that incredibly dark place, something just sparked. This first section is called A Spark in the Silence, and it's all about that journey from this crushing grief to a sudden, totally unexpected explosion of creativity.
So check out how this all went down. After weeks of just being lost in this fog of grief, the author is suddenly jolted awake at 4 in the morning. Some force just makes them start writing. For over an hour, words just pour out onto a notepad. No plan, no thought. They collapse back into sleep, completely spent. And it was only days later that they looked at what they'd written and realized it wasn't just random scribbles. It was a perfect, raw, emotional map of a lifetime. A creative act born from nothing, from emptiness.
Now, you might be thinking, wow, what a unique experience. But here's the thing. It's not at all. It's actually part of a much bigger pattern. Which brings us to our next section, the quiet canvas of genius, which shows this kind of thing has happened again and again throughout history.
And this slide just lays it out perfectly. I mean, think about Isaac Newton, right? Back in 1666, he was basically in quarantine from the plague, when, boom, the whole theory of gravity clicks into place. Or what about Franz Kafka? He found that only in the dead of night, in that total quiet, could he create something as wild as metamorphosis. And hey, we all just lived through it, the global lockdown. It was a forced stillness for the entire planet, and what happened? A massive explosion of art and music and poetry. The big takeaway here is that silence isn't empty space, it's a blank canvas.
This line from the source just nails it, doesn't it? Our lives are full of noises, wreckage, all the chaos, the stress, the confusion. Stillness is the peace's balm that kind of soothes all that. And right where those two things meet, that's where creativity is forged.
Okay, so we've seen the stories, we know what happens, but how? What's actually going on in our brains? How does being still unlock these incredible ideas? Well, let's get into the psychology of it.
So the science actually has a name for this, divergent thinking. A researcher named Scott Barry Kaufman talks about it as our brain's ability to just explore tons of different solutions to a problem, all at once. And what does your brain need to do this? 2 key things, quiet and time to let ideas incubate. You have to give your brain the space to let all those weird connections happen on their own. Which brings us right back to our author's story. That crazy 4 a.m. writing session, that was divergent thinking in action. The stillness gave their subconscious mind the freedom to connect all these dots across an entire life, to map out emotions, see strengths like resilience they didn't know they had, and even face weaknesses. The source calls it gaining a third eye's gaze, which is just a beautiful way of saying they achieved this moment of crystal clear self-awareness.
But this idea isn't just some modern psychological trick, not by a long shot. It's actually an echo of ancient wisdom, ideas that go back thousands of years, all centered on this concept of effortless being.
Let's look at 2 great examples. In Taoism, you have this concept called wu-wei. People often translate it as non-action, but it's more like effortless action. Action without all the struggle and forcing it. Kind of like our author being pulled to write at 4 a.m. Then you have dhyana from Vedantic philosophy. That's a deep meditative stillness where all the chaos in your mind finally settles down and what's left is pure clarity. They're different paths, but they're both pointing to the exact same truth. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing at all.
And you can see this idea in action with historical figures like the amazing poet Rabindranath Tagore.
He created his whole university, Shantiniketan, which literally means abode of peace, as a place where you could learn by being in nature, by being quiet. His incredible poetry came directly out of that stillness.
Okay, so this all leads us to our final section. Find your Silent Symphony. Because this isn't just a history lesson or a psychology lecture. This is about us. It's about how we can take our own moments of feeling helpless and turn them into something meaningful.
So, let's bring it all home. What does all this actually mean for you? For me? For any of us living in a world that is constantly yelling for our attention and telling us we have to be busy, busy, busy all the time?
It really boils down to this. By making a conscious choice to just do nothing, to sit in the quiet, to let ourselves be still, we give our minds a chance to pull back that thick veil of confusion. And when we do, underneath all of it, we can finally hear the raw, powerful pulse of our own creativity.
And so this is the question I want to leave you with. Every single one of us has a unique inner world, a song that only we can sing. So what kind of silence do you need to finally hear it? Don't be afraid of that quiet. Lean into it. See what symphony is waiting for you in there. Thanks for listening.